Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Alright, welcome to Vigoroth. Vigoroth is one of the most powerful fighters in the game, and it likes spamming them body slams. It's really freaking good, and you've probably seen it since the preseason because this body slamming, even though it looks like it's like... Actually, how much does a Vigoroth weigh? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. However, it is powerful enough, despite the fact that it may look small, or it's actually very vicious, and those claws are probably going to rip your face off. Those body slams do heavy damage. Vigoroth is a beast, and it is actually statistically the best safe switch in the Great League Remix. A combination of great moves plus a decently bulky gorilla. It's a sloth, right? Yeah. So it's actually a sloth that's not like angry and not pissed off. But Vigoroth is really freaking good in Go Battle League for Great League and for Great League Remix. Again, it serves as the best safe switch. Now, the thing about Vigoroth is what makes it really interesting is that it's somewhat bulky. It's not tanky as hell, but it is somewhat bulky. The reason being is because it has high stamina, pretty high attack, and high defense. So, not really high defense, but high attack and like semi-high stamina. So, it can take a few moves. As you see here, what makes pure normal types very interesting is they only has one weakness. Their only weakness is fighting, and they double resist ghosts. So because you double resist ghosts, those things like Sable Eyes, those Jealous Ants, or Drift Limbs won't do much against you. Fun fact though, Drift Limb actually walls you, so it might not actually be super comfortable. But as you see here, you only have one weakness, and you have a super big resistance. So that's what makes Vigoroth so good. That body slam spam adds up, and it does a ton of damage over time in a battle. As you see here, the reason why it's so good is because it has counter. Anything with counter is the most powerful overall fast move in the game. Sheer damage goes to Dragon Breath. As far as damage, energy, and a 2-turn move from hell, it is counter, and it will punch you to oblivion. So counter users are so good, and that's why Body Slam and Bulldoze is such a fantastic move set. As you see here, Body Slam allows you to essentially WWE your opponent down to oblivion. You can go pro wrestling, and like I mentioned before with the bodyweight things, I have no idea how this thing does so much damage because it doesn't look that heavy compared to, like, I would say a slacking, but hey, it does the work. And Bulldoze is a great coverage move. With Bulldoze, you can cover the steel types. You also can do heavy damage against rock types as well, which is why Bastion does not like Vigoroth. One Bulldoze will do heavy damage against the giant wall face. Alright, so overall here, the Great League Remix rankings. Again, please consider doing at pvpoke.com. Vigoroth overall ranks at number 11. It is very strong in a lot of positions because of one reason: Body Slam. So as you see here, it is in fact the most powerful save switch in the Great League Remix. It also doesn't do bad in the league just because of the body slam damage and the fact that that damage actually adds up. Now when you look at the Matrix, the interesting thing in here is that it actually beats it can beat Altari into 2 shields, and you'll see why. But it's very, very interesting. The thing about the reason why I'm doing a Matrix on Vigoroth is, yes, I did a top 5 fighters. However, Vigoroth is really special. It is the base save switch, but there are very specific matchups you should know with body slam and scenarios, and I think it will help a lot if you really are looking at Vigoroth, and this will really help you for Great League Remix. As you see here, very powerful against anything that's weak to fighting. Of course, it actually blows through with Bastion and Registeel, even though in fact it doesn't have stab with counter just because it has such high attack. As you see here, in the lead, Vigoroth doesn't do too bad. In the lead, Vigoroth ranks at number 23, so it still does really good, being able to beat the unholy hell out of Sableye, Obstagoon. The funny thing is, it actually beats Sableye because it resists Shadow Claw. So that's the hilarious thing about it. Because you resist those Shadow Claws, you actually beat Sableye, and that's why it's such a beast. You can use it in Elite to break shields, and then you can like just line up whatever in the back, or if you have such a dominant matchup, have Vigoroth just beat the unholy heck out of whatever's in the back. As you see here, it's the number 1 switch. This is where it's so strong. Like, yes, even though the psychic types do resist counters, they don't resist body slam. So body slam really forces your opponent in kind of a bad scenario. As you see, as far as switch goes, again, it does beat Sableye, it does beat Obama. It actually beats a lot of switches. If it's not a fighter, Vigoroth, if you lose the lead, and even if they throw a fighter into you, Vigoroth is going to do a hefty amount of body slam damage before it goes down. In the closer, Vigoroth, as you see here, as we scroll down, the closer is its weakest matchup. That's why we're scrolling down quite a bit to find Vigoroth at number 61. Sadly, it's not number 69. However, as you see here, it can still eat Bastion to next dimension because Bulldoze does so much damage. It also does heavy damage against the Weather Ball users in Politoed and Alolan Ninetales because of the fact that Wind Stab and Body Slam just does so much. This combination, along with Vigoroth's attack, allows it to essentially just, it's so strong against the Weather Ball meta, it is really good. Here's the problem. If Registeel has energy, it can lose to Registeel because it can get Focus Blast. The thing that makes Vigoroth kind of tricky, like I mentioned before, it's weak to fighters because it's normal type. However, it is very, very powerful and very, very good for the Great League Remix regardless. Alright, so here's the Matrix. As you see here, we're going to investigate whether or not Vigoroth is basically really good. Well, this is what I do for every Matrix. Thanks to the add and compare thing, now we can compare high IV spreads. I don't think you'll use a high IV Vigoroth. Use the ranking that's highest because you want your Vigoroth to live long enough so you could literally just body slam superpower, well not superpower, but body slam the holy hell out of whatever's in front of you. Anyways, as you see here, we have the Great League Wings to the right. You want body slam Bulldoze, you're not going to get fancy. You can use there's no reason for you to use, don't use Brick Break. You can, but just don't use Brick Break. As you see here, there's something very interesting. So as you see here, when we hit the 2 shield, we got 2 shield here, Great League Wings to the right. As you see here, where you can actually be, so this is why you want a high rank one. You can beat Altaria in a 2 shield just straight body slamming. You can literally, so this is what makes it really good. It is a fighter that can beat Altaria because the mere fact that you drop a bunch of weight on it, even though it doesn't look that thick. Anyways, as you see here, I wouldn't really depend on the Chestnut one like you see right here for Chestnut. Because with this, you can probably essentially just, you should be able to just straight body slam it, right? Oh no, Chestnut wins. Well, that's if you get super powered, but oh, wait, what? Oh, okay, so just be a little careful here because it can actually, so Chestnut actually beats you straight superpower, which is actually pretty nuts. I didn't know that. So just be really mindful. I didn't know that actually. How do you win with high defense then? So there's a super dumb breakpoint to where if you have a 15 defense, you will live with, no, you actually, well, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, they only win if, so they only win if they double superpower you. So it's very weird. I don't know why it's not doing this, but you should be able to beat, well, that's assuming if it energy balls, but if you straight body slam, unless they superpower you to death, then you should be okay. Yeah. Just assume that you lose against Chestnut. Anyways, as you see here, the strength of Vigoroth, as you see, you do very well against anything that is weak to fighting. Plus, you beat Altaria in a 2 shield. That's reason enough to use it. As you see, it's very, very strong, even against things like Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz does take neutral damage, but because Body Slam does such heavy damage, you do really well. You can even beat Melmetal in the 2 shield. As you see here, you beat a wide variety of Pokemon. What I like about Vigoroth is if they have Shadow Claw or if they have a Ghost type move, you resist it and you could pretty much just body slam them to death. That's why you beat Mew and Munchlax. You're going to beat Obstagoon just because it's double weak to fighting. You're also Regirocks, and you even beat Sableye because of what I mentioned before. Now, it's kind of tricky because here's the thing. These, IV spreads do matter, but as you see here, with a high IV Vigoroth, you can, like 115-15, you can actually beat Wishcast. So a rank 1 can actually 1 HP in a Dream Wishcatch. So if you have a very high rank 1, you can win the 2 in a 1 shield. So IVs matter for pretty much that one specific matchup. That's where IVs really matter. That's why I would recommend you have a high ranked Vigoroth, for sure. But as you see here, be very mindful and be careful of ghost types as well, because things like Frostless, as you see here, Frostless Driplim will beat you pretty hard just because you need to... Driplim just completely walls you. Frostless, you need to bulldoze it, but even then your counters are not going to do a lot of damage. Same thing with Deoxys Defense or other Psychic types, and of course Charmers. With Charmers, you don't essentially... So here's the thing about Charmers. If you face a Charmer like Clefable, your body, you can body slam, you can force shield, as you see here. And you can force both shields before you go down. However, this Clefable is going to be pretty healthy. So just keep in mind, you can force shield. Yeah, you do have a chance against Charmers. You can sack Vigoroth and then just body slam, force the shields of the Charmer in the lead. So there's a lot of ways you can play that. So as you see, 2 shield, very, very powerful. Again, not bad as lead for the mere fact it can beat Altaria. And you can do a strategy like I mentioned before. Body slam spam, sacrifice Vigoroth, and then you can run over the back with shield advantage. So that's a strategy you can do. As you see in the 1 shield, things get a little dicey as you start losing shields. You will convincingly... You lose against Altaria in the 1 shield, so just be very careful. You also lose against Ferrothorn. You also... I mean, not lose against Ferrothorn. You also lose against other fighters a lot more convincingly, like Excavalier. You also lose against... basically simultaneously KO with Mana Buzz unless you can get a counter through their charge moves. Just because, like I mentioned, as you start losing shields, your chances of winning start diminishing a lot. So as you see here, the one shield, you still do good against like usual matchups. However, if you get like things like Regirock that can focus blast you, you have to be careful. Same thing with Scrafty. Scrafty can actually, Scrafty can actually pup its way to victory. As you see here, just power up punch and then it can power punch. So it can straight power punch you to death. So just be very mindful that the one shield, it gets dangerous once you start losing shields. But Vigoroth is still a beast. As you see here in the one shield, you can convincingly beat Wishcash. With a high IV Vigoroth, you can actually beat other Vigoroths because you win CMP. As you see with attack, I still wouldn't run a high attack one, run a high rank one because you are able to flip the Wigglytuff and the Wishcash matchup. So high ranking definitely takes priority over high attack. In the zeros, this is where you don't want your Vigoroth to be. You don't want it to be in the zero shields, but if you are in the zero shields, you can still beat a couple of Pokemon. Now, the thing about Abomasnow, you can beat Abomasnow, as you see here, if you have a high attack one, just because you're able to punch it down. I wouldn't recommend it, though, because like I said, you don't want your Vigoroth to not have shields. This is a horrible position for Vigoroth, because things like Chestnut, things like Registeel, can focus blast you / punch you to death. So that's where you have to be really mindful. However, you still beat like things that lose, you still destroy Bastiodon. You'll actually beat Clefable in the closer because of the fact that you are able to body slam it to death. So there are some pros about having a Vigoroth in the back. You also beat Haunter just because, careful of Sludge Bomb though, but you can beat Haunter pretty comfortably, and you beat a slew of other Pokemon. Again, you will generally lose to fighters, things that outpace you or out-tank you, because like I mentioned, even though Vigoroth is semi-bulky, it doesn't exactly lift through everything, so just be very careful about that. However, Vigoroth's still very powerful. As you see here, you still beat a couple of matchups, but be very mindful. This is Vigoroth's worst position, is the closer. Now, if you're up a shield, things do change. Anything up a shield is really strong, and up a shield, Vigoroth just goes to town. As you see here, beating a majority of the meta except for Ghost types, Deoxys defense, and Medicham. Yes, ironically, I know 1 and 0s you lose against Medicham, but it's only because Medicham is such a beast as an XL and even as a perfect. So, but other than that, you pretty much run through with shield advantage. Look what you run through. You run through a lot of things with Vigoroth, so just keep that in mind. Again, high IVs do matter. As you see, a high ranking Vigoroth will do a lot of damage. The 2-0s, you pretty much, well, anything strong in 2-0s, but you can still lose against Driplim, just because Driplim still walls you. Other than that, you'll probably Driplim and Medicham. So something still beat you even with shield advantage. You want to stay away from Drifloon as much as possible when it comes to Vigoroth. With shield advantage, you still do conceivably well. As you see here, you can be you lose against Clefable. You drop 1, 2, you drop the Ghost. So you drop some Ghost matchups like Frostless. You also drop the DD matchup as well as Clefable and Hypno, because Hypno does resist your counters. And of course, Shadow Champ's going to end your life because it's Shadow Champ. Mantine and Medicham are also going to give you somewhat a hard time, even though you do have shield advantage. You still beat a ton of things, but again, fighters don't like you. Tropius is thick, so so you don't like it either. It also resists your counters. And Shadow Victory Bell, go and Shadow Victory Bell. However, if you do have a high ranking one, you do beat Wigglytuff, so high ranking does really matter. Like I mentioned before, you want a high ranking Vigoroth, but as you see, Vigoroth is very, very powerful in the 2-1s with shield advantage against pretty much everything except things that resist it or punch it to death. Now, as far as bulk and breakpoints go with Vigoroth, as you see here, bulk and breakpoints don't really matter too much. Again, you want a Vigoroth at the highest rank for good reason. As you see here, where the high rank point, with a high rank, Wigglytuff does less charm damage against you, and there are very specific situations where you'll actually beat some and lose some. So you don't want a high attack Vigoroth because, like I mentioned before, you want a Vigoroth with as much HP as possible. The key is spam, 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 punch, punch, punch. Break shields, come out with shield advantage, and then hopefully your back row can take off everything. Or if you do win the lineup with Vigoroth, just realign everything and make sure you're good to go. Also, make sure you be careful. Again, be careful of Ghost types, because they can give you a very hard time with Vigoroth, especially Drifloon, because Drifloon effectively walls you. Alright, so if you're going to build a team around Vigoroth, I think I already did something about this, but like for more specific things, there's a lot of strategies you could do with Vigoroth just because it's a powerful safe switch. So the thing about Vigoroth is you don't really have to worry about Drifloon that much or Ghost. I mean, they're out there. However, the thing about Vigoroth is that if you're going to see something that's probably going to kill you after you switch into something, it's going to be probably a fighter. Fighters are Vigoroth's worst nightmare and going to give you a hard time. So you want to create something to where after Vigoroth's done body slamming the fighter to death, you can farm it down and do some magic. So as you see here, Vigoroth does mesh well with a lot of picks. Altaria and Vigoroth is a great combination. Both of them complement each other very well because Vigoroth can still beat a lot of charmers just body slamming it, and Altaria does cover the fighter coverage. As you see here, it also makes up for the bulk that Vigoroth doesn't have. If you put in addition, oh wait, hold on, I forgot to do this. Okay, sorry. Okay, give me 1 second. I always forget to do this. Please don't roast me. Okay, there you go. Cool. Put the remix. There you go. Poof. Okay, cool. Well, it's still generally the same thing. As you see here, if we put Reggie Steel in the back, or if you put Reggie... You can put Berserker with this team. Berserker's a great team. I think I put this before, but Berserker in the back is a great Pokemon. Well, with Vigoroth, yeah, it does work. Just be mindful that Berserker does also lose to fighters, so just keep that in mind, with your biggest weaknesses being Hitmonchan and Poliwrath. So what we're going to do, again, you want something that beats fighters, or you want to have coverage against fighters, or hopefully something that does have like a double duty. You could even put a charm in the back. So if we did this, and if we put let's do, no, let's not do that. Let's put Cresselia, because Cresselia is tanky, and Cresselia can take out fighters. As you see here, Cresselia is thick, and wow, this is a good team. Wow, yeah, that's a good team. What's the threat scope? Ooh, okay, that's not 69, but you know it does. Actually, this seems really good. As you see here, you might want to be mindful of Frostless, because Shadow Balls Frostless can ball out, and it hurts you a lot. Frostless is really good in this meta, but as you see here, Vigoroth meshes well with a lot of things. Just make sure whatever you have in the back can take out fighters, or you have a specific strategy for fighters, because like I said, the thing that Vigoroth is weak to is fighters. But if you have enough energy on Vigoroth, you can body slam a lot of things to death, so that's what makes Vigoroth so good. You can make a strategy where you have Vigoroth in the lead, you sack it by body slamming everything to death, and then you come out of the back with shield advantage, or you can say switch into, you can throw Vigoroth into Bastion and just destroy Bastion. Really up to you. But as you see, Vigoroth does mesh well with a lot of combinations, particularly as a say switch. You can also use it in the lead and do the strategy I mentioned to you before, body slam everything to death. Just be aware that some fighters may be in the lead, like Medicham XL, and they will kill you. So just be very mindful of that. Be careful of and beware of fighters with Vigoroth, and you'll do very well in the Great League Remix. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As you see here, Vigoroth is very good and works in a lot of team composition. So if you have one, it's going to work really good. And if you like it a lot, body slam spam works really well. Do you like spam with Rice? I like spam with Vigoroth. Not really. That was really awkward, but you know what? Vigoroth is really good in the Great League Remix. Anyways, as you see here, I hope this video, again, did help you out. Hopefully, it helps you pick a lot of combinations that you would like with Vigoroth, because it's really, really good for the Great League Remix. It can either deal a heavy bunch of damage, or it just nukes a Registeel or a Bastion to oblivion. If you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe. Good luck on your guys' Go Battle League sets. I'll be doing more Great League Remix content up until the Cup actually comes out. Good luck on Go Battle League sets again, and I will see you guys on the next video.
Charmander!